just so the I can't do anything.
Okay, it's not running car. Sorry. Okay, so we started, but okay, recording will be from here. Okay, so okay, so yeah, so he had to go down into the lowliness of Egypt, Hashem himself, to pull the Jewish people out, and he did this at first by giving them the first mitzvah. What was this first mitzvah? He pointed to Moshe, showed him the new moon, and he said, this month is going to be the first month. This is how you tell what the new month is going to look like. And the mitzvah was the blessing of the new month, the blessing of the new moon. Okay. And every year, the Shabbos before the first of Nissan, which happens to be this coming Shabbos, we read the portion of where Hashem tells Moses Moshe that. It's called Parshas HaChodesh, the portion of the month. Okay, so till this point, I want to say quote unquote, Hashem kept track of like the calendar of the months, of what the times were, what was supposed to be when. When he gave the Jewish people the mitzvah of the new moon, it's like he put it into our hands. He said, here, now you keep track. It's like a king who had a very special time clock that he kept, and he would keep it to use to check the time and everything. And he had a prince. And when the prince was big enough, he said, you know what? I'm giving you this time clock, and now you get to keep time and watch it. And this gift is for you, and you please take care of it. And so Hashem trusted us with the time. And we see this actually with the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh, because this mitzvah, the idea of us sanctifying the new month, the way it was, especially was done in the ancient times, shows how Jews are above nature. We're supernatural. And it shows, and also it's one of those mitzvahs, it's one of those things that drove our enemies bonkers, that made them like, can't figure us out on what's wrong with these people. And let me explain to you why. Okay, so the way they determined when the new month would be, and subsequently, because knowing when the first of the month is, knowing when the holidays would fall out, right? What do? They had witnesses and the Beis Din, the Jewish court of law, that would determine when the new month was, when they saw the new moon, and from that, when the new month was. It wasn't science. It wasn't like, was the moon there or was the not moon there? Maybe we got it wrong. And it wasn't Hashem telling us, okay, this is the day that's going to be. You should know which day is going to be the new month. But Hashem created a system for us humans who could make mistakes or could determine things on different factors. We're the ones that determine the correct timing for observing all the holidays. So think about Yom Kippur when you're not allowed to eat. Think of Rosh Hashanah when you have to hear the shofar blow. Think of Passover when you're not allowed to eat leaven, right? You can't eat any bread, but you have to eat matzah. And those have to fall out on exact times. You have to know, okay, on this day, we don't do this, or on that day, we don't do that.
I remember being recorded by now. But in the Torah, it does say like the ninth day.
Yes. So
it actually does.
It tells us which day of the month, but how do we know when's the ninth day of the month?
Oh, which month?
Oh, no, how do we know when the ninth day of that month is?
Oh,
how do we know when the 15th day of that month is?
Yeah.
Only if we know when the first day of the month is.
Right.
Hashem doesn't tell us this is going to be the first day. It's the people. It's the people down here below, earthlings, that figure out.
Not the UFO.
Not the UFO. No. Yeah. Okay. When the new month is. So each holiday has its do's and don'ts. And think of the ramifications of, eating chametz on Passover or eating on Yom Kippur, whatever it is. So it's not celebrating on the correct day. But Hashem didn't say, okay, you have to get it right. You have to, if you don't get that moon at the right time, then you have the wrong date. No.
There was one story like that. Remember those two rabbis you told us? Yeah. You told us that story.
Oh, I didn't remember anymore, but yes, I did tell you a story. Right.
Eat matzah now, eat bread. No, I won't.
So that's why Hashem set up a system. The system is two witnesses come. If they interrogate each witness separately, where did you see the moon? What did it look like? Where was the moon when you saw it? Where were you when you saw it? This, that, the other. If both of their stories lined up and they felt that people were trustworthy, then the court of law would determine, okay, this was the first day. These people saw it on this and this night. That makes the first day of the new moon. well, you just barely see a little sliver. So right, that's another thing. It can't be
That's the first day.
right. It's already the
Like, you
first
know-
day. Exactly. So the time they find out, it could be the second day or the third. So right. So there was a story that we did actually speak about. So it's what the court decides. Okay. So it's what the court. So it could be yes, there could be a lot of situations, but whatever the court decides is the first day, and that's why I'm saying it's in the hands of the people, which doesn't really make sense according to nature or science. If there's a certain amount of days in the year, if there's a certain amount of days in a month, if there's, there has to be, so when, let's say that's one of the things that, let's say, the times of Hanukkah, why did Antiochus couldn't handle the idea that Jews had their own, these holidays, because it didn't make sense to him. It was supernatural. It wasn't something that had like a logic, a super, that went according to some type of science. It was something that it was determined by the court, depending on the witnesses. So yes, there was a system in place.
It was like, it was half nature, half people.
Yeah,
blended together.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Nature meets people.
Yeah. And so, so we see that this mitzvah kind of like personifies how Jews are right. How Jews are above logic, how Jews are somewhere beyond.
I was gonna say one thing is like these kings usually like to be above nature. They like to say, I control nature.
Like Pharaoh.
Above. Right. As compared to us, we actually blend in with nature. We actually complement nature as compared to they say we're above nature. So I think that's why they had a problem, because we complement nature and then they figure they want to control nature. That's my opinion.
Right. But they also like wanted, like, especially the time of the Greeks, they wanted to like, it should be something that's like understood and logical, and how could something be something beyond
That's what I'm saying. You want to control
science.
nature.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So then they can understand. Yeah. And today we have the same problem.
Nothing has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the same problem. So, okay. Okay. So anyway, so as soon as they determined, oh, this is the day of Rosh Chodesh, or the first Rosh Chodesh was, let's say, Wednesday night. That's when the people came, saw that new moon. So then they would quickly send out messages. And that's another reason why outside of Israel, we have 2 days of a holiday, because we wouldn't always get the message in time, and we knew it could be one of those 2 days. So it's stuck like that. Okay, there's other reasons too, mystical reasons, but that's the basic reason. No, that came from the law, the halacha, yeah, because if you were within a certain range, you got the message right away. Yeah, okay. So getting back to the reading of the portion of HaChodesh, of the portion where Hashem tells Moshe about this mitzvah of sanctifying the new month, the moon. As I said before, it's read every year, the Shabbos before we start the month of Nissan, and reminds us of the first mitzvah that Hashem gave the Jewish people. And this is the mitzvah that kind of brought them up so they would be able to be redeemed. They'd be merited to be redeemed out of Egypt. Okay? And it shows how special this month is. And it's called the King of all months. The month of Nisan is called the King of all months. Yes. Also, we'll talk about later, it's also called the Rosh Hashanah. The first of Nisan is called the New Year for Kings. And we'll discuss what that is later. Okay. So by reading this portion, which, as I said, falls out this coming Shabbos, it reminds us that Pesach's on the way. Hey, we're reading this. This is what happened in Egypt. Hashem told Moshe on the first of the month, this month should be the month of all months, the first of all months, and then soon after the redemption happened. Okay, so it reminds us that Pesach was coming, and we have to do whatever we need to do to get ready. So in ancient times, it meant that they had to get ready to go to Jerusalem. They'd all go from all parts of Israel and go to the temple, to the Beis HaMikdash in Jerusalem, and all had to give the Pesach sacrifice, the Korban Pesach. Okay, it was a very special time. It was the most honored time in the Beis HaMikdash. It was a time the Beis HaMikdash in the Holy Temple that was like the most festive, the most honored, because everyone had to be there on the eve of Pesach. They all had to bring the sacrifice on the eve of Pesach. The other holidays, they had like a window of time when they were able to bring it. But for Pesach, they had to all bring it the eve of Pesach. Okay. Now it says a very interesting terminology. It says HaChodesh Hazel Lachem. This month is for you. So what is it for you? Okay. So when Moshe told the Jewish people that it's time that Hashem wants to take them out of Egypt, they said, wait, we remember something. Abraham was promised by Hashem that your children will be slaves for 400 years, and then they'll be redeemed. And it's not 400 years yet. It's not 210 years, exactly. So Moshe said, Hashem wants to help you. He wants to save you, and you're beloved to him. So there's a verse in the Song of Songs that says, he skips over mountains and he jumps over hills. Okay, and that's the lover is skipping over the mountains because they want to run to the person they love. And so the same with Hashem. Hashem loves us. He cares about his, and says he's skipping over. He's not really counting the years. He's jumping over the mountains just to save you, just to get to you. Because we are so beloved to Hashem, and he just wants us, wants to take us out and save us. Okay. So Nissan is known as the month of redemption, as we mentioned before. So what is redemption? Could anyone experience redemption? Okay. Well, let's say you live on a hill in Beverly Hills. You have everything you want. You have a beautiful view. You have. Okay, so then could that person experience redemption if there's nothing? But if nothing, if they've never seen any dark times, could do.
Oh, they never. Well, they just don't know these things dark. They don't realize.
Well, then they never really felt redemption if they never really saw dark times. To experience redemption, there has to be something bad or something negative or something evil, something dark. They have to go through something dark.
Then you're not human. Come on, every human is being dark. Exactly, you're done.
Yeah, it could be. Okay, let's say it could be any. It could be a personal. Right? No, for sure. But a person who just, and there may be some people like this, or if they didn't live too many years yet, or whatever it is, that life went so well for them. Everything was good for them. They never really had like a real down. But right, so to experience redemption, you first have to have a dark. You first have a night. You first have to have something sad or not so great happen to you. Only then could you really see what redemption is. See what light. All of a sudden you get light after dark. You feel that difference. If you always have light, you don't really realize the difference of what the light. You don't appreciate it. But if the Jewish people were never enslaved in Egypt, they never would have experienced that feeling of redemption, that burst of light, that burst of godliness that came and brought them out. And the Jews it says they were crying out to Hashem. They said, Hashem, when are you going to save us? And Hashem said, when you're at your lowest point. So when you're when you always say something, say, yes, I'm as bottom as I could be. Get me out. And now is enough. Exactly. I agree. So this is the story and the history of the story of the Jewish people, the history of the Jewish people, right? We go like we're on a roller coaster. That's what I think about a roller coaster. We have lows, we have highs, we have lows, we have highs. There's dark times, but then there's salvation and there's light. And this month, especially the month of Nissan, is a time for redemption, is a time for light, is a time for miracles. So even if something doesn't seem to be good that's happening this month, which shouldn't be by anybody, we could all have a really good, happy, and light month, you say maybe it's just the beginning of the goodness to come. And why do we make such a big deal out of this month and out of this holiday? So there's a very famous, what's it called? Mashal. English. Allegory?
Yeah, that's good.
Not allegory, but okay. There's a better word for that. Okay. Anyway, there's a story. Yeah. Not fable. No.
It's not a fable.
It's like a story that kind of explains a lesson. Yeah. So there's a king and a queen, and they wait many years to have a child. They finally have a child, and they celebrate the child's birthday every year, and everything's wonderful and good. And then the child gets lost, or someone kidnaps it, and they don't know what happened to it, and they're looking and looking, and they, send out church parties, and finally, they find the child, and they make the biggest party, ever, biggest celebration every year. On the day that they found the child again, the lost child, they make a huge celebration. And so that's the same thing like here. So God created the world, and that was a beautiful thing, and we celebrate Rosh Hashanah, but then we were in exile, and we were in Egypt, and we were slaves, and now that God redeemed us, it's like that great light, that great happiness, that great celebration, and every year we make a very big deal about the month of Nisan and the holiday of Passover. Okay, and it also just reminds me of like what's going on now with the hostages, because like they're really experiencing that dark and that exile, and that's, I don't know if we're slavery, but that bondage. And I mean, they should come out now before even the month of Nisan comes upon us. But when they do, the celebration and the happiness that they're going to feel, the families are going to feel, it's like, is the most I could really connect to what it really would feel like, what this feels like. Okay. So that is why we make such a big deal about calling Nisan the first month. Now, another interesting thing is that we say the head of the year, Rosh Hashanah, right? Is the head of the year, the first of the year. The word Hashanah comes from, like, the year comes from the word Shana, which means year, but it has similar word to Yashan, which means old. Okay, because Hashem created the year, created the world, and then the years just go on, and it's kind of like the same old thing. It just something that happened. This is how it's supposed to be. This is a cycle, and that's it. It's just kind of old and just one long, time for period, timeline. Now, Nisan is called Rosh Chodashim, the head of the months. The word Chodesh is like similar to the word Chadash, which means new. Thank you, Chance. New, because every month there's a renewal, there's change, there's good things, right? The moon, waxes and wanes. So like there's something's gonna be better. And so that's why we connect this month, which is the head of all months, to a month of miracles, a month of wonders. And even the word name Nisan, the month Nisan, has the word nes, which means miracles, within it. So it's really a special month, and it gives this idea of renewal. Well, it's coming.
It's coming. We're still Adar too.
We're getting there.
Okay, Adar too. Okay. My birthday. Don't slack Adar too. I was born in Adar too.
Okay. So this also brings out the supernaturalness of the Jew. How is that? Because the other nations are bound by the laws of creation. It's a system, it's a cycle, there's a nature, there's the old, the same old. The Jews, we go by the month, right? We count our months by the moon, we go by the month, and which is Chadash, which is new, which brings about miraculous events and things that are above nature. So wonders and miracles, and that is connected to the Jewish people. And what gives us this power to have this renewal and this energy? It's the Torah, which is our source of renewal. Okay. Now, another interesting thing about the month. Everyone got it? Anyone have any questions? So I'm just keep going. Okay. And so it's next Tuesday, April 9th, which actually we're having a Rosh Hashanah society that day. Whoever wants to join. Yeah. It's gonna be about Batya, but he's not even active. Okay. No, she's not up. Okay. So Nisan is also called Chodesh HaAviv, the month of the springtime, self-explanatory. It comes in the spring. And Chodesh HaRishon, we said before, the first of the month. And a side note, we always need Passover to fall in the springtime. And that's why, let's say this year we had a leap year, because otherwise Passover would have started last week. And that's not quite spring in the Jewish sense. Okay. Another interesting, the word Nisan, as I said, nes means miracle, but also in Babylonian, the word Nitzan means bud. So it's like the buds are blooming. Yeah, the buds are coming out.
I think that most of these months are Babylonian words.
Yeah, so it said it came from they weren't named. Yeah, in the Torah it doesn't say the word Nisan. The Torah just says the first month, the month of the spring, that does not say the word Nisan.
Savannah, it just means third. But it doesn't, it's in
Babylonia, yeah.
Language,
yes.
Not in Hebrew.
Yeah, so the months were named in Babylonia, at least most of them. Yes. Okay. Okay, so now there's another interesting thing. If you look at the zodiac, which Jews aren't bound by the zodiac, but it's something interesting to look at and learn from. So the sign for this month is Aries, which is a ram. Now, it reminds us of the lamb that the Jewish people had to take and tie up by their bedside before they left Egypt, right? They had to tie the lamb by the bed, and then they had to slaughter it and roast it right in front of all the Egyptians. And it was the Egyptians' god, and then they took the blood and smeared it on the walls. I know you're gonna have faces, right? So it's
Exactly.
So there's a lot of interesting things about the ram. Yeah. Oh, is that what they're like?
Aries are like, there you are, yeah.
Oh, happy birthday. Okay, so the ram, so one of the things the Egyptians connected the ram to riches. Because in an ewe, which is really what, a female lamb, a ewe?
Yeah.
You,
The ewe, yeah.
The female,
Okay,
yeah.
so the
Right.
way you say that in Hebrew is ashtarot, which is very similar to the words asher, like rich, or shir in Hebrew. Now, the people who had a lot of rams, let's say, made their owners rich. So they connected the richness with the rams. So the ram, it shows a source of blessing, for not just for this month, but for life and for the whole year. Now, the Egyptians served the ram. They bowed to the ram, the sheep, right? Because all they cared about was the physical and the riches. All they wanted was the material life, the beauty, the wealth, whatever that meant. And so they bowed, they worshipped the ram. Now the Jews, we used it as a Pesach sacrifice. So no, yeah, it was. It was very, for a Jew to do that at that time was major self-sacrifice. It's like going on in the street and, I don't know, saying something very unpolitically correct and seeing what happens to you. Yeah. Okay. So, and for a Jew, the ram, and using the ram as a Pesach sacrifice, it shows that we attribute our wealth or any goodness that we have, any blessings that we have, not to the ram, not to the physical, but to Hashem. We give our strength and our riches to. He's the one that who gives us everything we need, and not the ram. Sacrifice the ram.
Does it matter if you sacrifice a sheep, a female or a male? Does it matter?
I think it was a male.
Oh, it's a ram, not a sheep.
Oh gosh, but a young. It was young. It's young.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a ram, not a ewe.
Yeah, I think so.
Not a ewe.
No, it was like, I think.
You want a male. I'm just
I
wondering.
want to say it was like, supposed to be a young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wondering.
Okay.
That's a curiosity. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so the ram for the Jewish people reminds us that we serve Hashem and that He gives us our riches or gives us our blessing. But for the Egyptians, it was just a sign of idolatry. And the wording that was used in the Chumash to say that we should go and bring the sheep and do everything, it said, draw out and take for yourselves sheep, kill for the Pesach offering, and then so it's basically take the idolatry, take for yourself, take out the idolatry from that sheep, take the idolatry out of it, and use this now to make an offering for me, make a Pesach offering for Hashem.
And eat
so
it.
just the wording, yeah.
And just eat it and digest it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So just the wording alone that was used for Hashem to tell us to take that sheep, it's like, not just take it out, but take the idolatry out of your ways. Because Jewish people were possibly serving idols during the time of, when they were enslaved. They were just stuck in the life of the Egyptian life. And that was one of the things they were doing. So like, get rid of that, idolatrous ways. Prove that to me by bringing this sheep, killing it, slaughtering it, roasting it. And I know that you really gave that up. Okay. So a few more things. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, sorry.
Okay. A few more things about this month. So it's a very special month. The whole month is like a holiday to a certain extent, meaning that number one is we don't do Tachanun, the confession prayers, that was called, the whole entire month. Number two, there's no fasting the whole entire month. Some people take on personal fasts. They don't really do it so much today, but there's no fasting this month. A third thing, there's no eulogy. So if someone has a funeral, they don't do a eulogy at the funeral, and they don't say a special prayer called Tzadok Hadin, which is said at usually at a funeral, but because it's considered like a holiday month, we don't say that.
Is everybody else for what?
No, everybody. Yeah.
good month to get married.
Yeah.
No fasting.
That's early enough.
Well, you have to get married after.
The beginning.
Also Adar, you don't fast before
Right.
you get married.
Well,
before the 15th, you get married before the 15th.
that's Janice. I don't know if you know Janice. Okay. So now, a few more things. This month, the first 12 days of the month, we say a little passage from the Torah. So in the beginning, we'll talk about it soon. The beginning of the month of Nisan is when they inaugurated the Mishkan, which we've been talking about in our other class a lot, the tabernacle in the desert. And they did that on the 1st of Nisan. So every single day for 12 days, the head of each tribe, every day different head of the tribe would bring a special gifts for the Mishkan. And to remind us of that, to remember the dedication of the Mishkan, we say like the passage of that day, like the first day, this and this, leader head brought, his name was this and this, brought these gifts. So we say that on the first day. The second day, this is a tribal leader head, this is his name, he said this. So in the back of the siddur, or in the reading, the Torah reading for, I think, Hanukkah, we read it then as a Torah reading, but in the month of Nisan, we say it and every day, and then there's a little prayer that we say after that. So that is done during the month.
I have a minor question, like the Kohen and the Levi, the one who do the ceremony, how do they have gifts if we provide food? What do they have? Because we're supposed to feed them and clothe them and everything like that. What kind of gifts can they have if they're the service people? What kind of gifts can they give?
So there was mandatory things that they were given, but these are the tribal heads, not the Kohen and Levi.
Oh, but okay.
There's like the head of the tribe of Yehuda, the head of the tribe of Yisachar.
Right.
But the Kohen and Levi, yes, they lived by, there was certain, I'm not gonna say taxes, but like, it was called Meiser, tithes.
Right, so it's hard
tithes
to
that
get when you're actually relying on.
Right.
Gifts.
No, but everyone's kind of obligated in either
Yeah,
way.
you have to give a gift. You
give a gift of your gift.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing about the month of Nisan, since we said it's a time of blooming and bud, it's a spring, it's a special time to make a bracha on a blooming fruit tree. So if you see a blooming fruit tree, there's actually there's 4 blessings that you can only say once a year. And one of them is this blessing, the blessing of the blooming fruit tree.
Is that in the book?
It should be in a siddur, or if you look it up online, Chabad.org for sure has it, because that's what I always use every year. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna start looking for it. Yes, only once, and during the month of Nisan is the best time to do it. Yeah, and the best is even if you have 2 trees next to each other that are both blooming. That's even like other way.
Excursion and I'll go out and do it.
Okay, great.
Good idea.
Okay. And if anyone comes back with the other 3 blessings that you can only say once a year, you get a prize. Off the top of my head, I thought of one other one, but I have to go look and remember the other 2. Okay. Anyway, okay. Another unusual blessing that we say in the month of Nisan is, but this is not done very often, it's the blessing of the sun. So they say there's a 28-year like renewal cycle, and when the sun is an exact spot, everything in the solar system, I don't know everything, but
I mean, like the solar eclipse coming up. No, just kidding.
is an exact spot of when the world was created. There's a special blessing we say. It's once in 28 years. The last one I want to say was about 16 years ago, if I remember correctly.
Yep, something like that. We went to Griffith Park.
Okay,
So
so
you
I
can see
remember
the sunrise up there.
It was 15 years ago.
and so, it's done in the morning, right after sun, when it's like just after sunrise. And I just remember because at that one, the most recent one, there was a baby there, like a friend I know who had a baby, and she brought her like 4-day-old baby.
Wow.
We did it in front of Chabad house. It was really, really nice. Now that girl I know now is like, I think she's about 16. She's in 9th grade. So I guess she's like 15, 16, something like that. Yeah. So that's how I always keep track. Yes, I have pictures of it. Yes. And when we were at that time, remember we were seeing to see who had done this the most times. Like, yeah, there were 2 old men there. One was my father. And I remember like, oh my gosh, they did it, whatever it was, 3 times in their life or whatever. I don't remember exactly the number. 3. That's if they were born 28. But let's say if they were, I mean, like,
the baby gets a credit because 4-month-old baby.
4-day-old.
4-day-old.
When do we do that?
It's once every 28 years. It's done in the month of Nisan.
Okay.
And it's done in the morning, like right after sunrise.
What's it
I
called?
actually remember I remember 1981 was the last one, because I just saw it. I just remember as being a really young kid. I remember going outside our synagogue in Chicago, our shul, and I remember it was still dark outside. So I guess it must have gotten light as we were waiting there, because I just remember it being dark and going there like really early in the morning and like being a really young kid doing that. Yeah. So I actually remember the last one. So, is that 22? Okay. Anyway, yeah. So as I said before, the first day of Nisan was the day the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was designated. It was inaugurated. So it's when the Shekhinah, when Hashem's presence started to rest among the Jews, the Jewish people in the desert. And it says that when the third Beis HaMikdash comes, when Mashiach comes, we build the third Beis HaMikdash, that's when we will start bringing the sacrifices on Rosh Chodesh Nisan,
Right,
the first of Nisan.
At the temple, we bring back those sacrifices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said before, it's the Rosh Hashanah, the new year for kings, and that means that the king counted their reign years, REIGN, right?
Yes, yeah.
Reign years, from the first of Nisan. So if they became a king, if they were coronated like 2 weeks before that, and then the first of Nisan came, that was already their second year.
Whoa, like the 40-year-old baby.
Yeah.
Just read it.
And it says the second redemption, when the Jews started to build the Beis HaMikdash again, after the first one was destroyed, it happened in the month of Nisan. Yes, and
What happens then?
that when the first Beis HaMikdash temple was destroyed, right? When they start to build the second one,
Oh,
then they start to go back to get the second one. It was in the month of Nisan.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Was it first built?
It was inaugurated, and I think it was Hanukkah time, like Kislev. Yeah,
That was the first.
that's why Hanukkah is also called,
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah, okay. Now, another important thing that we do in the first, when the month of Nisan comes, we start to think is about something called ma'os chitim, money for wheat. Because in the old days, right, everyone had to go figure out how to make their own food for Passover, including the matzah. They didn't have big matzah bakeries that shipped all around the world, factories, yeah. They all had to get their wheat, not even so long ago, I would say even in Europe, 60, 70 years ago, people did this. Even if they went to the bakery to get the matzah, they had to bring the wheat to get the matzah. Now, let's say you looked around your neighborhood, your community, and you saw, hey, how's this person going to afford to buy wheat for their matzah? They're not going to have any food for Passover, because what they eat, matzah and a little bit of vegetables or whatever it was they had. So ma'os chitim became the code word, or the name of giving charity to the poor to make sure they have their needs for Passover. So it's a big ma'os chitim. And so that became the word today for making sure you give extra charity to people in need, or to organizations that give out money, give out provisions to people who need, that everyone should have what they need for the holiday. So now that we're it's gonna be 2 weeks before our Passover, even before that, you already start to think, hey, who needs help for Passover? Let's make sure to not just think of ourselves, but also to think about others. And I guess that concludes the class for today, because I had no more paper left in my notebook to make notes. But next Sunday we'll continue and go more into like Passover prep and stuff like that. If anyone has any more questions, comments.
What kind of